Hey, what's poppin', guys? This is Rahul George from the Thinking Out Loud podcast. In today's episode, I am trying out something new, something which I haven't done for a long while actually. So in the past episodes, I would always, script everything out, the solo episodes, and I would follow the script. I would read it, I would memorize it. Whatever I did, it went along with the script. And in today's episode, I wanted to try out something which I haven't done in a long while. Just keep the points that I want to cover and just go with the flow. And the reason why I'm doing this today is because today's episode is going to be a bit personal. I'm going to talk about an experience that shaped me as the person who I am today. And I felt that if I wrote it down on a paper, uh, I felt the expressive value of it would be lost, and I did not want that to happen in today's episode.
You are thinking out loud right here, right now.
So, ever since childhood, I had this problem. I would always want to play safe. Like if I was on a stage like other kids, I would not jump off the stage out of the fear that I would twist my ankle. On the staircase, I would not even jump from the second stairs because I was scared I would, fall down. Uh, and similarly, it just, translated into multiple other aspects of my life. Anything that made me feel uncomfortable, I did not want to do it. Even the things like, when you're on a grocery store, I wouldn't go to the person and ask, okay, where can I find this? Because I felt so uncomfortable doing that. I would just avoid it. I just wanted to feel comfortable all the time. The good thing was, this led me to have a very comfortable childhood. I never, fractured my hand, never twisted my ankle, never twisted my wrist. I never experienced these kind of things, and I think very fortunately I would say that I haven't had any emotional trauma as such. Something, if you ask me about my childhood, the most traumatic experience that I had was, uh, there were two actually. One is my parents arguing, but that, whose parents don't argue? And the second one would be my kindergarten fancy dress competition. I remember, I was so excited for this, okay? I remember I was dressed up as a chicken, and this costume was my favorite. I would even, just wear it at home and walk around. That's how happy this costume made me feel. And I was so excited to take part in the school fancy dress competition. But when I got there, I became reluctant. All because I had to go up on stage, and I was scared as hell to go on stage back then. I remember when my name was called, and they're like, up next, we have Rahul Sajid George, dressed as a chicken. And ironically, I just hid behind my mother. That is probably the most traumatic experience that I would have had as a child. And I would say like I had a very comfortable childhood. But having this comfortable of a childhood also led to some major struggles in my life. Uh, so we'll fast forward to third grade, and I remember it was during our, I remember like the last 2 hours of school, especially like just before the summer vacation, was something we called house meetings. So what would happen is the kids of particular classes belonging to a certain house would go and sit together in one class and just spend 2 hours over there. If you were participating, you would go and practice. Otherwise, you would just sit there, do your homework, talk with your friends, or just whatever. So in my class, it was 3A and 4A, and I was in third grade. So I remember I was talking to this person who was in fourth grade at that point, and I remember him having this badge on his tie, which fascinated me because I had never seen this badge on the tie before. And I asked him, what is it? And it said prefect. And I asked him, what is a prefect? And he said, well, I don't remember exactly, but I'll just assume it was something along the lines of maintaining discipline because Harry Potter. If you know, you know. At that point, the badge fascinated me so much. I just said, I'm going to get this badge when I'm in fourth grade. Uh, Stupid me did not even consider how this badge would be given. And, when I went into fourth grade, I waited for a month and, there was no news about how or when this badge is going to be given to people. And I just approached my class teacher and she said, "Oh, Rahul, you mean the student council? Oh, okay. This year, fourth graders are not allowed to participate. It's only allowed for the fifth grade in the junior wing." And I was like, "Oh, okay. So I have to wait for one more year." So I got into fifth grade and I was like, "Okay, so this is the year I'm going to get that badge." I was really excited, and around that point I realized it's the investiture ceremony that the student council of both junior wing and senior wing is appointed. So I was really looking forward to it. And 1 month before the ceremony happened, I remember our school headmistress came to the class and she was like, "Good morning, class 5A. So we will be having selection rounds for the student council." Little me was so excited. I couldn't, wait to stand for it. And she was like, "Whoever is interested, just give me your name." And I was like, "Oh, so we just have to give her name? Fine, that's much better." And she went, "Roll number 1, Kapil Rathod." A guy in my class stood up and he was like, "Yes, ma'am. Would you like to stand for anything?" Kapil thought about it and he said, "Yes, I would like to stand for the post of head boy." And she made him come in front of the entire class and give a speech of 2 minutes. This freaked me out because if I wanted that badge on my tie, I had to go in front of my class and speak for 2 minutes. My turn finally came and she was like, "Rahul George." I was like, "Yes, ma'am." She was like, "Would you like to stand for anything?" I was like, "Sorry, ma'am. I'm not interested." I actually said, "I'm not interested." Something I dreamt about for 2 years was finally there, and I had to just stand in front of some people for 2 minutes. People who I had known for 7 years because we were in the same class since kindergarten. I couldn't stand in front of these people for 2 minutes, and I gave up my dream of 2 years just like that. What added salt to the wound that day was I was the only one in my class who did not stand that day. 4 weeks later, the student council was announced and we had the investiture ceremony, and it was such a beautiful celebration with a very sad Rahul George in the audience. I never told this incident to my parents, but my parents are very intuitive people. They knew they had to do something about me, about my fear of this, going on stage and talking in front of people, or, just approaching the grocery store guy and asking him, "Where is this?" And they decided to enroll me in something called Gavel's Club. For those of you who do not know, Gavel's Club is a club. It's similar to Toastmasters, and it's a club that focuses on developing the leadership qualities and public speaking skills in people. I attended a few demo meetings and it seemed really interesting. And the reason I joined was because my really, really close family friends were also joining. So I thought, oh, this would be an opportunity for me to spend more time with them. So I joined this Gavel's Club. And 3 weeks in, I found out that I have to give a speech in the very next week. So next week, I had to stand in front of 40 people, most of whom I did not know, and give a speech for 4 to 6 minutes. I did not know how to write a speech at that point, and my mom helped me out with it. We printed it out. I had my speech typed. At that point, one thing I was glad about was there was a podium in the room where we used to have our meetings. So I was like, okay, even if my hands are shaking, my legs wiggling, I will have something to hide behind and show that I am a confident person. I forgot to count facial expressions, but I was dumb back then. So the day of the meeting arrives, and I arrive at the meeting hall. And to my surprise, I found the podium was taken away that very meeting. That was the only meeting the podium was taken away. The meeting where I had to give my first speech. I was freaking out. I had no idea how I was going to do this because now everyone is going to see my hands shaking and my legs wiggling. And I was going to be embarrassing myself in front of 40 people, most of whom I did not know. My turn comes. I stand in front of the audience. I did not want to see their faces and I cover my face, I lift up the sheet of paper all the way, covering my face so it prevents my view of seeing all of them. And I just read out the speech, which I really struggled, by the way. Every time I was struggling to carry forward, I heard these voice of encouragements coming from the audience. Yes, come on, Rahul, you can do it. I found these encouragements weird because my hands were shaking and my legs were wiggling. But these encouragements gave me power to carry on. I spoke for a total of 6 minutes and 23 seconds. The most uncomfortable 6 minutes and 23 seconds of my life. I felt like I was standing in front of all of them naked. But what surprised me was how I felt after the speech. Yes, it was not a stellar performance. In fact, I would say it was pathetic. But despite it being one of the worst experiences of my life, I felt so good about it. I felt so comfortable with who I was that day. That little bit of discomfort led me to feel a lot of comfort for a lot of time. And this had a major butterfly effect. It not only carried out with me in my role as a public speaker or in a Gavels club or a Toastmasters club. I was able to approach the people at the grocery store who I was initially scared to go and talk to. I started becoming more of an outgoing person. I started to do things that made me feel really uncomfortable. I started to manage teams. And being a team leader was something I never thought I was capable of. I started to notice this huge change in me. And one thing that I could definitely not see, but I knew I could feel it and know what was happening was that my comfort zone was expanding. Every time I decided to take a step out, face my fear, and stand there for a while, my comfort zone naturally expanded, which led me to take another step forward. That little bit of discomfort led me to a whole lot of comfort. I was able to find the comfort in seeking discomfort. This is just a simple story of mine, and I'm sure all of you have a story like this as well. What I just want you all to do is just reflect about an experience where you felt so uncomfortable doing something, but you went and did it anyway. And think about how you felt after the experience. Do not focus how you felt during the experience. Focus on how you felt after the experience and try to reflect whether it was something that empowered you. All I'm just trying to say is a little bit of discomfort leads to a whole lot of comfort. And a little bit of comfort leads to a whole lot of discomfort. This is my story, and I'm sure you all have yours. Thank you for listening to another episode of Thinking Out Loud. And this is Rahul George signing off. And I shall see you next week.